Rida Mawla, welcome to the Earthbewe Banyan.
Banyan.
I don't know how else to introduce this other than saying 90% of why I feel better the last week is because I saw you a week ago in physiotherapy. And I mean this.
Thank you so much. It makes me feel really, makes me appreciate it, really.
It was your voice, because I didn't see you at the beginning.
Yeah, I know.
I think you said something like, Ronnie, shut up.
Yeah.
I
I was like, that must be him. Like, no, I saw your hair from behind. You were lying on a stretcher.
yeah.
And I was behind you, was getting ready for my session, and I was like, there aren't many people with that kind of hair that I know. So yeah, I called your name, and it was and then I think Laura first. When I called your name, she's like,
Yes.
"Who's this guy who knows him?"
Yeah. And I couldn't see you right away. I asked, could they bring me to you?
Yeah.
And they rolled me right next to you, and something about seeing you just, I don't know, I felt better. And I think that's the power of your ability to really show that there is a way out of this, and I think you're mentally probably the strongest person I know right now in terms of what you've been through and how you're coping it. It's because you smile too.
Yeah.
I think that let me smile more as well.
Yeah. I've been told about smiling even in rehab. But that doesn't mean at all that I don't have my dark moments. It's been, and also it's always relative, because like now I'm 2 years out. 2 years and a few months out. I mean, yeah, the first year was not roses and butterflies.
And I'll just say from the beginning, but actually before I get to the beginning, I'll just say you rock shark shorts well.
Yeah.
Disclaimer, I'm going solo
Yeah,
right now.
you're commando.
I'm going commando, but we can get away with these things when you're on a certain device. No one can judge.
No.
I found out about what you had. That's when you know I haven't done a podcast for a while. English doesn't.
Yeah.
I found out what happened to you, I think maybe minutes after, because people on social media were sharing it aggressively.
Oh, really?
I think I found out the same afternoon or evening, there was circulation that something bad happened.
Wow.
I think it was the next day or maybe 2 days later that the donation
started.
page.
Yeah, it was a few days after.
A few days after.
A couple days after. And to me, it was, that first period, it was kind of a blackout.
Yeah.
I don't even remember much, how I ended up in, but although I was like conscious the whole time, but I think I just blocked it. I don't know, maybe some sort of defense mechanism, because I went to the hospital close to the scene, and then I was transported to AUB. And I think I started really remembering, now when I look back, I remember the days after surgery. That first part was really blurry.
But you were conscious the whole time.
Throughout, yeah.
Could you, and most people that are listening to this will know what happened, but
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the few that don't,
Of course.
could you just, this is the dumbest thing to ask you because it's thousands of times you're explaining it.
Absolutely, no.
Let's imagine somebody doesn't know what happened to you.
So we were at our friend's place, Diana and Paul. Yeah, they're mutual friends.
Yeah.
And we were spending the afternoon there. We had lunch, a few drinks. I think so. There's a friend who I call my guardian angel now. I met her that day, Anna. Spanish. She's from Spain. She used to teach at AUB, or she learned Arabic at AUB.
She's the first person I messaged
Yeah.
when I found out what happened to you.
And
she messaged me, I think, yesterday. Because she commented on our photo together, and she said something very sweet.
Yeah.
To the effect that, beautiful souls. But I got to know her through thing. Yeah.
And I remember that day we connected a lot. We started talking about, I think, the origins of some words in Arabic and the different dialects. It was a very interesting conversation. And then she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go take a dip," and I said, "I'll I'll join you in a few minutes." I think I was finishing my drink or something.
Yeah.
And she was there. So the way to get to the water from their house is that you have to take a few flights of stairs,
Yeah.
and then you have to walk over rocks, and then you can go in the water or
Yeah.
jump in the water.
And that's how it is in Kfar Abida. A lot of places
Yeah.
you have to go further
Yeah.
out to jump.
And it's kind of similar to if you've been to Colonel, for
I
example.
was thinking Colonel.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's similar to that. You have to walk, and then you get to the water.
It's unusually shallow at the beginning for a stretch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I took that. I remember I walked, and I remember I stood in one spot, and she was in the water, and I remember saying something to the tune of like, did you jump? Did you not jump? Should we jump? And she told me something like, be careful, or you might not be lucky, or oh, anta hazzak, or something like that. And I was like, I was like, okay, maybe not here. And I went to another spot, and I was like, and I looked, and I was like, okay, this looks like it's deep enough. And literally, it was, I was it was 10 centimeters above. It was not like I'm jumping from, like a huge rock or something. And I just took I took a dive in, and it was, as you're saying, it was like abnormally shallow. I don't think I saw that
Yeah.
because it was very dark. The water was dark.
So it was later in the day that you.
It was later in the day, but the water itself was also like dark. And to me, that felt like as though it's deep.
Right.
And the moment I got in the water, my head hit. It was like, bam. I hit my head. And I think I was going like, so my head was going first, but then I flipped, and I hit my head and turned, and then I was looking back at where I jumped,
I see.
So I kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so when I got out of the water, I was like, I immediately, it was like as though electricity was gone. Like, I lost control of everything immediately.
So right when you hit your head.
Yeah.
That's the moment of
Yeah.
paralysis.
It was like a blackout. Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember being, my head in the water and struggling to like just take it out, take a breath, and I could barely move my shoulders at that time. Now I have some like much more arms movement.
Right. Right.
But that was definitely not enough for me to stay afloat. And I think had it not been for Anna, I would have drowned.
She saw you.
She saw me. She was like, I would say 15 meters down, swimming.
She was still in the water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about it in detail yet because she left Lebanon after, and I hadn't had the chance to like really sit down. But people tell me that she thought that I was like doing some sort of meditation because I was like that.
Right.
And then she saw bubbles, and she saw some struggle, so she rushed towards me.
Wow. So had she not been there?
Had she not been there, yeah, I don't think I would have made. I mean, I did float, but my face was in the water, and I had to like every like few seconds I had to try to take a breath.
Wow.
And I swallowed a lot of water. And so there was a struggle, but it's like when it happened, it's like something. This is really bad. And I asked a lot of people at rehab later when I went to the US. They all had the same experience. Like when it happens, like it's like.
It's a stupid question, but what exactly? If you could describe it to somebody who doesn't know the feeling of what you're talking about.
It's like I felt like a jolt down my entire body, and then it's like lights off. And yeah, so it's like, and I didn't feel pain, which is.
You mentioned this last time I saw you a week ago. You said that to me is striking. So there's no sensation
Yeah.
It's just
I mean, it might not be the case for everyone, because I mean, after my accident, I read a lot, and some people get, so much pain,
Yeah.
feel so much pain, but I don't know. In my case, I did not, but I started feeling a lot of pain in the hospital.
oh, so later,
Mm.
and it was the pain centered around your neck,
It was, yeah, apparently I
Oh.
was up my neck and like chest area.
right?
And apparently like I was in a lot of agony, and they gave me a lot of like, steroids and stuff like that. Yeah.
These are all amateur questions from my side.
No, I barely, it's nice to talk about them.
Is it that?
Yeah, after this, in the beginning it wasn't.
Yeah.
Now it's like, it's therapy to me.
I'm glad you're saying this because I find it complicated to talk about things that bother me. And hearing you saying that it's therapy means you've gone through enough.
Yeah, in the beginning it wasn't. So
Yeah.
no, I don't recommend talking if you don't feel like talking. Yeah.
I followed your journey on social media for the most part. I messaged you a few times on social media, but I also felt I couldn't really bother you. I didn't feel right to intervene. That's how I got to know your friend Anna, because I was messaging her.
Okay.
And I actually, we have enough common friends that I kind of was up to date.
Yeah.
Common friends that are actually quite interesting. They're common friends from October 17 crowd and even an MP, Rahim Naimne.
Right. Yeah.
Whom I spoke to him a few days ago. He called me and he said he saw our photo.
Ah, really?
Yeah, and he said, "Yeah, Rida's coming on Tuesday."
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
it's like I mean, the country's so small, you know.
Interesting.
But a lot of people were talking about what happened to you, and what struck me the most back then is that this is completely not your fault. This is an accident that could happen to anyone in this country. And then I started thinking, how could this be avoided? And I think what should happen is that this would be a different country altogether. We would know, there would be some indication that this is a place you don't swim.
Yeah.
Whether it's a sign, whether it's some information, but because of the lawlessness of this country, anyone can see deep water and not know it's shallow. Anyone could have done that jump from that house. Diana or Paul maybe would have been one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a consequence to that lack of information, lack of real awareness. And somebody as decent as you pays a price for that. And that's what I was thinking about the most. This could have been avoided. And hearing you say it's just a 10-centimeter jump, I heard so many myths about what happened to you.
You told me, I remember.
And I'm like, I don't think this adds up. People were saying you were doing backflips and joining.
Wow.
So it's like, joining,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's like,
I don't think that's true.
I don't think people survive that.
Yeah, exactly. And we all know not to do that. And those that are doing it, I think, know not to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like but it didn't strike me that that's what you would, didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it was,
And I don't see you as a backflipper.
no, yeah.
I see you as a guitarist.
I do have a lot, yeah. I do have a lot of activities that I do that, borderline danger. I ski, I surf, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't go like backflipping from high.
Right, and that's
High areas.
that's clear risk.
Yeah.
But shallow jump, and 2 years and a few months later, I'm happy, I'm relieved to see you physically and also mentally much better than I could have imagined. And physically, I mean just in that I didn't know you could move your upper shoulders and your arms.
Yeah.
And mentally, I mean, you've set a very high standard. You're laughing. You kept your hair long.
Yeah.
That also made me want to keep my
Want to
hair
keep
long.
yours, yeah.
They offered to shave it off. I said, no. If there are people keeping it long, I'll keep it.
Yeah, yeah. And as long as you, to me, it's been a journey, because also the fact that so many, the solidarity that I felt.
Yeah.
I remember that the first day after that fundraiser, my sister came to I had no idea they were preparing that fundraiser, for example. And my sister came to my room and she told me, and I was like, I just broke into tears. and that was also part of my success. You know, the people, not just me. You know, it's also
Yeah.
to say like credit is due there, and that in the sense that there was so much solidarity around me, so many people supporting me, that it, obviously there is a personal element to it, but there's also a lot of power that I drew from the people around me, and it's still there. That's also
Yeah.
like they people around me made it easier.
You told me something when I last saw you, and I'll, if with your permission, if you
Yeah.
want to share more, otherwise I'll remove this. You were given the premier type of physiotherapy in the States in Atlanta, Georgia, and you were really, I mean, the most advanced type of physiotherapy for what you've been through. And then at the same time, the loneliness of that experience brings you back to the place that this happened.
Yeah.
And can we go there a bit about what exactly is the social comfort in this kind of permanent injury, that you would still want to be back in the place that in a way caused this to happen?
Yeah. I thought about, you know, I had a lot of, so many nights thinking about this. And I don't think I have a specific answer, but I would say the I realized that I looked at my life differently after this accident, you know, after my accident. And I realized that now the people that matter to me matter even more. So there's that element, that aspect of it is that I want to be close. You know, before that, I was, you know, I would, yeah, you know, travel, live a few months in Mexico, go, you know, work from, you know, remotely from Portugal, whatever, you know.
Before the accident.
Before the accident, yeah. And now I'm like, I just want to spend quality time with quality people.
Yeah.
That are dear to me. So there's that aspect of it. Of going back to Lebanon, this is very important.
Yeah.
It says that I got to value time spent with loved ones. And
over there, you had, I'm guessing you had some support. But
I had my immediate family.
Yeah.
Which was amazing, obviously. But other than that, you're just on your own.
Yeah.
You know, and you know the U.S. I've lived in the U.S. too, and I love it in so many ways. But because there was also talk like after the accident, yeah, maybe it's time I move to the U.S. and, you know, start my life there. And there's all that, you know, premier care and all that stuff. And I was like, after a while, I was like, yeah, but that's not what matters.
I feel the same way, even though I mean, your injury is very. There's no comparison about any. I cannot compare. All I can say is that I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and it's there's infrastructure support, but there's no emotional support.
Exactly.
And I somehow think, and you probably agree with me, the emotional support matters more. Actually heals.
It heals. I think so. Yeah.
I was telling this to friends that have been coming. It's like, this is the best way to recover.
Yeah.
Just have people you love show up and talk to you. Kill some time and do what you need to do on the journey. But this is so much more important than having maybe both are necessary.
I agree, but I'm definitely grateful and thankful for the experience I had in the US.
Yeah.
And it was very foundational for my recovery, or, you know, my ongoing recovery.
Yes.
But that, you know, I'm still, you know, of the opinion that the emotional is everything.
You told me the funniest story that you were going to the dentist in Hamra, and then thinking about lack of infrastructure, you're suddenly stuck in traffic with cars, but that you're pretty badass wheelchair. You're probably more advanced than some cars in the street, you know? And that's also part of the compromise. You have to suffer, but it's still, you prefer being here.
Yeah, and it took me, well, that's that's a very funny story in the sense that I literally could not go on the sidewalk because I couldn't access the sidewalk.
No sidewalk.
So I had to like stand behind, it was so much traffic. I just had to stand behind the car and wait for my turn as the car.
What do they do when they see you like next to them, you know?
They're like, oh,
قطعتني. أخذ محلي.
but infrastructure is really hard in Lebanon, and that's why I had to prepare my comeback. So I came back for a month, 2 months actually, last year, during
Oh, okay.
when shit hit the
During the
fan.
war, you were
Yeah.
here. Oh, okay.
And so it was kind of a test for me to figure things out.
Yeah.
There are, you can, for somebody with a disability, there are facilities, but you have to go like look for them and find them and seek them.
Is this place one of those types of?
This is one of those places. I realized that so when I came last year, I rented a wheelchair accessible car. So I discovered that there's this wheelchair accessible taxi service in Zahle. And this guy has he has a bunch of wheelchair accessible taxis.
Yeah.
So I asked him to rent one of his.
Uh-huh.
And I kept the car with me, throughout my stay.
Sorry, this means that he has to drive and you.
No, he actually rented out. Well, I had a driver. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's just you're able to roll in.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And this guy's doing amazing work because their name is Able Taxi, for example. So I got to discover a lot of things about this community in Lebanon.
Which is there.
Which is there.
But they're not.
Yeah.
Maybe they're more visible now than they were before.
Yeah.
But the infrastructure didn't catch up.
But there's, and they're like, you don't, if you think about it, when was the last time you saw a wheelchair in Hamra?
I've never seen them.
Or in Mar Khayl, or in,
I've seen them in shopping malls.
In shopping malls, exactly.
Of elevators and yeah.
So that element is not there.
Yeah.
And so these things I have to plan very carefully.
Yeah.
So the dentist in Hamra, or the other day going to Molo and Badaro.
Yeah.
I had to plan it, but then I found out that the only place where I could access the sidewalk that lets me go into Molo, there was a car blocking it.
There you go.
So I ended up going to a place next door.
So this is exactly what I'm talking about. No one can control this. It's just the lawlessness. Yeah. And Molo is wheelchair accessible. I mean,
Molo has a ramp.
Yeah, there's a ramp, and I think even going inside, you can go inside.
But I couldn't access the sidewalk to get to the doorstep of Molo.
In those situations, this touches more on mental stability rather than typical insanity in this country. What goes through your mind when you see that stupid car that is preventing you from seeing your friends in Molo?
I get pissed a lot. Yeah, there's anger.
Anger.
I can't deny that. Yeah. I was angry, but at the same time, who should I blame in this situation? The car, or the really bad sidewalk, or the lack of, officer, controlling this wheelchair parking, or all of them, or
right, or all of them means really none of them.
None of them too.
It's just spread out too.
Exactly. So, there's helplessness, not hopelessness.
Yeah. The mental side of it, I think, is probably the most important part, because I can't imagine what you've been through other than what you've told me and what I've understood. But that you also seem to be, you're put together. I mean, you're there. You're 100% on your head is on your shoulders. You're fine, and that to me means you've been through what is necessary.
There are the facilities that show you the way, but then it's up to you. So now, what I learned in the U.S. in that relatively short amount of time, now I am applying every day here.
Right.
Maybe if I, didn't go to the U.S., I wouldn't have exposure the exposure I did. But it's still at the end of the day a personal endeavor. I think you have to push to work on these on the mental aspect. In the US it was just given to me on a plate, as they say. As part of the rehab program, I had a once a week one-to-one with a specialist, a psychologist specialized in spinal cord injury.
Yeah.
So that opened my eyes about the that issue, but then I continued the way, and so yeah, like the mental, but I've also been someone since before my injury who's very aware of mental health. I've had my own journey with mental health, and I've always and I was in therapy before the accident, and
So you found the benefits there
Yeah.
prior. So that maybe motivates you to do
Yeah.
it more.
and I keep telling myself that you know how mental health is. I think it's just like a little volcano that if you don't deal with many aspects of it in time, it might explode from very stupid things. So meaning that if I hadn't dealt with a lot of my things that I had,
Yeah.
in the past, that accident would have made them explode. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think the fact that I had a clear, not clear, but somewhat okay mental health status because of the therapy that I have undergone over the months and years before,
Yeah.
I would have had a much harder time, getting over my injury because there would have been so much baggage to deal with before,
Yeah.
facing that.
So you'd already largely resolved those problems prior,
Yeah.
and now you're faced with the biggest challenge of your life, and you can handle it as a result.
Yeah.
I can't say how much I'm inspired by your story. Then I should also add that I've only seen you 2 times, last Monday and last Wednesday.
Yeah. Here.
Prior to that was an off chance we were among common friends in Batroun
In Matron, yeah.
years ago, and I know that you know my younger brother, and just we have
And my
your father, yes,
dad's
of course.
noise. Yeah, I knew each other a lot. Yeah.
100%. And but you've been in the background. Now you're in front of me. You've made it easier for me.
I'm glad. No, you feel okay.
Yeah, I want to get into me for a bit with your permission. If that's okay.
Please.
I'll tell you what happened to me. And I've never gone through this level of pain, physical pain. Never been through this.
It was okay.
I've never experienced physical pain as much as what happened 2 weeks ago. And I've never screamed so loud. I've never felt my body react so badly. I was on my electric scooter. Not as advanced as your wheelchair. It probably goes slower than yours. I've seen you go fast with
Both,
this. Yeah, mine is not that fast. 6 p.m., sunset. I'm driving from Marim Khayr to Jemaise.
Okay.
So the sun is in my...
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I'm wearing sunglasses. Really just to avoid sun glare. And you know how the street is. Cars parked on both sides of the street. There was a car parked with its engine on the sidewalk and its trunk on the street.
Okay.
So one of those cars that finds
That's just like
creative parking.
بشكة يعني.
So كلهم هيك that car هيك. So the trunk is not visible. It's just cars, and then there's a trunk rather than door. I'm going not that fast, maybe 30, 35, not crazy fast. And there's no traffic because it's Sunday. And that car decides to pull out.
It was like okay.
I mean, I saw the car beginning to pull out and I was approaching the car and I نازل شوي. So I held the brakes, but the brakes weren't working because there was oil on the pavement. An oil slick.
Fucking kidding.
Whether it's from the gas station or the fire trucks, الدفاع المدني, I don't know. But the road was slippery. So what happened is I started sliding, and I slid pretty much. I never hit the car. I slid to the point that I avoided the car altogether.
Oh.
And I think, from what I remember, it was 2 slides, and then the scooter and me fell together and smashed into the road. And the impact of the scooter on my leg snapped the leg. So the bone snapped, like it just snapped in half. And I felt it. I heard
You
it.
heard it? Oh.
And then the knee shattered, the lower knee. So it was 1, 2, and that pain really got me. The rest of my impact was on my shoulder.
Okay.
So I literally had 3 separate injuries. And there's maybe a minute that I don't really remember anything. But then suddenly I was just screaming from the top of my lungs in pain. The most incredible pain. And you know how it is in this country. People run up to you and they want to lift you. And I don't know who it was, somebody told me just to get up. And I said, I can't, don't touch me. And they're like, move your arm. And I couldn't because it's broken. And I just said, leave me here, get the Red Cross. And maybe 2 minutes they were there. And they were very fast. And I have to give it to them. They were very professional.
The Red Cross, yeah. I've had the same experience with them.
Ah, okay.
They're excellent.
Everything was done correctly. Very, very, very helpful. But I didn't know what was going on other than screaming with pain. They put me in Hotel Dieu. And since then, I've gone through the surgery, lost a bit of blood. That was a critical phase of blood loss post-surgery.
From the surgery or from the injury?
From the surgery.
Oh, okay, wow. Okay.
And I had to get blood donations as a reserve. And then it's just been really managing pain since. But immobility, 2 weeks in, I don't like being helped. I actually despise it. And friends of mine are helping me all the time with things that I don't want them to do. And this is the basic stuff. Whether it's just grabbing some water, closing the curtain, asking for some food at 2 a.m. You have to wake someone up. And I'm not able to get into the wheelchair. I have to be in the bed or get put in the chair. And then even on the chair, I'm pushed because of the shoulder.
Because the other hand, yeah.
Yeah. So it's immobility. I despise this. And that's why I was attracted to your wheelchair, because it feels like it does the job.
Yeah, the first day I sat in the chair, it was like, life-changing.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty badass.
Yeah.
But this is something I'm not getting used to. And I have 3 months ahead of immobility, more or less. How would you recommend that I handle this without killing somebody by accident? With maybe throwing a knife at them or trying to jump out the window? I get some dark visions.
I was not, my first few days, I remember in the hospital, I refused to see I couldn't see people.
Yeah.
I was not except for the very close family and few friends. So, because I was, this was one of the main things, by the way, like the suddenly you're in a position where everyone out of their goodness, they want to help and, do things, but sometimes you're like, please don't.
Exactly.
I just had to accept it in my case at the end. Yeah, I would say I had to look at what would I have done.
Yeah.
If it was my friend or someone from my family, I would have tried to help the same way.
So, and knowing that it's not what you want right now.
Yeah. So that lessened a little bit of my, pain.
Yeah.
Emotional pain. and over time, when I started, dealing more with my physical situation, because it's the feeling of it's just at the core, in my opinion, it's the idea that I need help that I'm not accepting. It's not
Yeah.
my friends that I don't want, or that they have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I think as the object is the state I'm in
Right.
that is causing me that much pain.
Yeah.
And that I worked through. I had to work. Therapy helped with that. I talked a lot about this in therapy.
This
Oh, yeah.
rejection of support that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, I found out at the end, it's not the rejection of the support is just a reaction. And at the core, for me, it was, at least in my case, it was just me grappling with the situation.
Yeah.
And understanding that I actually need help.
Yeah.
So it's that refusal. It's within
Yeah.
that I had to deal with.
I'll only add something to this, is that when it happened and after it happened, similar to you, I don't know who to blame.
Yeah.
And this makes it somewhat easier, maybe, that I don't have a focus of, there's no revenge. I can't blame the gas station or the fire truck or the car or that driver. That's how the country is. But at the same time, they're all to blame too. But maybe that's kind of allowed me to just accept it, that this is the price you pay here.
And
Negligence.
yeah, and for me, for me, there was also, in my case, a very slight tendency to also feel guilty myself. Because, asking myself a question like, stupid you, why'd you make that jump? Why'd you. So but then, now I'm fine. I got over this.
But you were at the beginning.
I blamed myself in the beginning a little bit.
Yeah.
But over time, I realized, no, man, it could have happened to anyone. Yeah. Same with yours, yeah. And you look at it could have been anyone.
We're relatively careful people.
Yeah.
I don't think of myself as somebody who takes dangerous risk.
No, me neither.
Yeah, even if, skiing and surfing is not dangerous. This is
No, it's just like a sport.
It's a fun sport, yeah. Driving a scooter should not be life-threatening, especially when you.
I used to be a motorcycle, and I have I drove a motorcycle, but I was by the rules. I wear helmets. I stopped on all the lights. Not.
And the car's beeping at you.
And then I end up, from a stupid jump, getting paralyzed. So, heck, these things was like, it's hard. It sucks that there's no explanation or culprit. Or
100%. It's hard to. You can't. It's too wide of a blame to focus it. It's a general feeling. But I have friends already that told me they're not buying scooters, that they wanted to buy one, and they're not buying it anymore. But I don't know if that's the right response either. It's not the scooter.
It's not the scooter. My friend, I remember I had this conversation with my friend. He loves diving.
Yeah.
And I think it was something about him. He's like, I don't think I want to dive again. And I was like, dude, look at me. I dove from, I did dive from the joining one. Not backflip.
Okay.
But I jumped from there. It's fine.
Where everyone jumps.
And then you end up having, and it's an accident.
Yeah.
That's the meaning of an accident.
Yeah.
It's like unpredictable.
That's well said. The moment I arrived here, everyone tells me the same thing every day. You have to see the view. The view is fantastic. You have to see the view. I'm like, show me the view.
Tarif?
I've seen the view more than once. It's good. It's not like, that's not enough for me to want to be
To want to be here.
Yeah.
To me, it was because before coming here, I spent 5 weeks at AUB, at the hospital.
Yeah.
So I hated myself. I was, in a bed for 5 weeks, barely, not moving.
Yeah.
And then I came here for another 2 or 3 weeks before they took me out to that, balcony.
Also, for 2 weeks, you didn't see the balcony. So you were like, and the ordinary experience minus the experience.
That was the first time they put me in a chair.
Right. Yeah.
It was the first time, and me, in my case, going, a huge part of, rehab in my case was learning about the shit that spinal cord handles in the body. From like blood pressure regulation to like, bowel and bladder. And, مثلا, it took me days trying to put me back up without, losing consciousness.
Right.
Because of blood pressure, for example. And apparently because spinal cord is, basically stabilizes blood pressure.
So it was difficult to put you in the chair the first time.
So it took a long, it was many days before I could like sit in a chair for a while.
Wow.
And for them to roll me all the way there.
And you had that fainting experience. On a lighter level, I feel it every time still until
But
but even though
it's not the spinal cord, it's just lying down also.
And even sitting down too long, I yearn to go back to bed. But this is the longest I've sat and talked since I got here.
Oh yeah.
Without wanting to, either jump back in bed, not jump, put back in bed, or to, and I go back to this. Talking with friends has been the best therapy for me.
Yeah, and
that includes
I can't recommend that enough. For me, just love, I think, is the. I used to think of that as cliche before, but no, it truly is true.
Yeah.
No, it does heal.
That's well said. Let's go to the balcony.
Yeah.
كيف الشباب؟
I've always done it on a stretcher. They would take me out and then of my هلا recently I started seeing what it looks like.
Yeah, the stretcher doesn't really, you get to see the lighting quite well.
ما بعرف كيف كانت الكوزينة؟